It's important to have people around us who know what they're doing, and for us to be willing to listen to their advice. If you guys are familiar with military history, world history, you know Adolf Hitler was a poster child of a guy that was not willing to listen to anybody or to take advice from the people around him. He had some incredible successes in his early campaigns. He took Poland, he just swept through Europe, and he began to think himself unstoppable, and he stopped listening to the people around him. He somehow decided that the early successes experienced by the German army were solely due to his leadership and maybe even his destiny. He forgot that it was a military staff who developed the concept of blitzkrieg and engineered the lightning-fast victories over Poland and France. Hitler did not want to listen to different points of view, and he was willing to court-martial or sometimes just even shoot without any kind of judgment at all, people who disagreed with him. There were several times in World War II where he actually assumed day-to-day command of the German army. The world can be very thankful that he was such a stubborn and conceited guy, because if he had listened to the advice of his German staff, war might have come out very, very differently. In contrast to Hitler ignoring and disdaining advice from his professional military staff, the American president, FDR, he listened to the generals that were on his staff, and he took advice from them. He was involved in the grand overview of what the battle plans would be, but he left the day-to-day stuff to the professionals. FDR's willingness to accept advice and criticism of his generals played as big a role in the Allied victory as Hitler's unwillingness to listen to advice and take criticism led to the German defeat. Even though history and practical experience show how important it is to listen, to be teachable, American culture does not value teachability. We have a practice of valuing strength, independence, charisma, force of will. We want those things in our leaders more than we want them to be willing to listen and to take advice. It takes a certain type of humility to listen to somebody telling you that you're wrong. And that humility is something that leaders need in order to lead well. While our culture finds it hard to listen to rebuke, being teachable is foundational to success. And it's going to have rewards both in our lives on earth, and it's going to have eternal rewards in heaven. Please understand my intent in sharing this message. I'm not saying that you guys need my correction. Far from it. In fact, you guys have corrected me, rebuked me, and helped me to grow far more over the past 4 years than anybody else in my life. I've been the beneficiary of your correcting my faults and errors. I've also felt trials which in hindsight I've realized were blessings from God, where He was lovingly preparing me for His purposes. I know the struggle that comes with accepting criticism, whether it be from God or man. It's just not easy to hear somebody tell you that you're doing something wrong. But there's a huge upside in taking correction, and it can have long-lasting life changes. Last spring, I had approached a pastor asking to start a ministry. And when I met with him regarding the details, he liked the concept, but he gave me some criticism that I had a hard time hearing. He told me that my attendance at church was getting kind of spotty. You know? And when I heard that, my first reaction was to come up with all the reasons why that wasn't a big deal, or all the reasons why I was doing that. You know, I went through the fact that, well, I worked on Sunday sometimes, and then I was doing coursework that had due dates on Sunday, my wife and kids being sick, only having one car, you know, and I just started going over all these reasons, and they went on and on and on. And then what I realized was that he was telling the truth, you know? here I was pursuing a degree in divinity with the goal of full-time vocational ministry, and I was missing church to finish assignments. I lost sight of what was important. The solution was for me to manage my time better, to finish the work by Friday with Saturday as a backup, and to leave Sunday for God. Pastor's discipline was not founded on a desire to bring me down. It was founded on a desire to bring me back, to lift me up and to grow me. And because I chose to accept the rebuke and apply it to my life, I experienced a wonderful season of growth. How about you guys? And how do you deal with people rebuking you or correcting you? Have you ever experienced a trial from God? You know, a trial and realize it was from God working in your life? Can you remember a time when maybe your father or a manager gave you some advice and you chose not to accept it, and years later you realize that maybe if you had, it would have made a difference in your lives? Hopefully you can remember many times where you had somebody gave you criticism and you grew from it. Well, it's important to remember that not all criticism is valid. You know, there's got to be a method that you work through to figure out whether or not the guy's telling you truth or he's just trying to bring you down. The important thing to remember is that all criticism, whether it's valid or not, is worthy of being considered. And you're not going to automatically know right off the bat all the time whether it's valid or not. We'll go into how you can maybe determine whether it's valid or not a little bit later. But the important thing is to know that it should be considered, and that if you do so, it can have really incredible benefits in your life. The main text for our lesson today is found in Revelations 3:14-21. And this passage is actually a letter from Jesus given to us through the Apostle John. And it was written to the pastor in the church of Laodicea. John wrote Revelation while he was imprisoned on the island of Patmos, probably at the end of the 1st century. And it was written during a time of severe persecution of Christians. The overall theme of Revelation is to persevere and to overcome, to keep our faith no matter what stands between us. To overcome. And in this passage, Jesus talks about one of the things that can really stand between